And I just want to start with this seed. There's no such thing as managing time. What this really winds up being is self-management and having the pig-headed discipline and determination to implement a system that will ultimately be taken over by your subconscious. That's really what we're doing here. Guys, as I sit here today, do I know what is on my schedule tomorrow? Nope.
No idea.
I don't even know what's on my schedule after this meeting today because my subconscious has let go and said, we got a system, baby. You never have to worry about that stuff again. I'm not trying to hold things in my head and hold on to all these things that I got to do. My subconscious knows you got a system you're following, and it just plugs in and flows now. It is phenomenal. I want to get you guys there as well. So that's what this chapter is about, making happen if you do it. So let's hear some more takeaways as well as what you're learning by implementing some of this stuff over the last 24 hours. What do you guys have?
I have a very basic one. I think it's basic. Making that list and that putting that time next to it. I re-looked that and went, I'm not allocating that much time to that. And it's like, then you add up your day and it's just eye-opening, the time for me.
And here's the fun part for me. You can allocate a little less time and still get away with it, can't you, Deb?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when it's
very eye-opening.
When it's on the calendar and the time's allocated, magically it gets done.
Hey, Russ, that was one thing that I noticed that talking about shortening the time and getting away with it. I noticed that Chet had, these department or these areas of focus, department meetings were an hour each. And I was like, sometimes they don't take an hour. And if you give them 30 minutes, you can get it done in 30 minutes. Like I love the 15-minute accountability meeting because even as it's growing, we're still getting it done in 15 minutes. Right?
Could we take an hour and talk about stuff and flow and have more verbose conversations? If we allowed an hour, would those meetings take an hour, Doc?
Sure, of course.
Yes.
And we only allow 15 minutes. And every morning, 15 minutes, magic is happening. And what I love about watching that, guys, is the people that are there. I'm watching the acceleration of their business. Their activities are getting higher quality now. They're getting a better return on time investment because they're holding themselves accountable to doing the work every day. So it's time on task over time that's kicking butt. Love it that you guys are doing that. What else?
Prioritizing instead of just making the list and, going through and doing those quick ones real quick and then getting interrupted. And it's like at the end of the day, you don't have time. When he was talking about that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is me. So.
How many of you have had a day that at the end of the day, man, I was so busy, I still got nothing done?
Yeah.
Right? So Kelly, let's have some fun with this right now because we are all in business. What are some things that absolutely should be prioritized every single day as a real estate professional that should be on the calendar? Ryan, what do you got?
Generation.
Okay, I heard lead gen.
Ryan, prospecting, yeah.
I would tell agents to stop saying that they're busy because busy is a freaking cop out. Start getting into production. Start being productive with your time. Stop using excuses and saying that you're busy, and actually start tracking what you do. So tracking your time is the first step. Tracking your numbers is the second step, and being accountable to what you want to achieve. That all that stuff continues to motivate. That's why I can't turn it off. So, but in those terms, lead generation, lead follow-up, and then anything else going on appointments, if you're an agent, closing deals, negotiating, getting to that closing table, those are your 20%. Anything after that's your 80%. that you can either leverage or find other time in your day to get those things done.
So here's the fun, Ryan, about what the author is doing to turn that on its head a little bit, because I agree with you. Tracking your numbers, we absolutely should be doing, so we know the numbers of our business. The tracking of time, he's saying let's instead just build the time and then track if we are living the calendar. So most people will live an open calendar and kind of wing it. And then when they track their time, they track the different things they're winging during the day. And that takes a longer window of time than saying, okay, here's what I'm going to commit to. Now, am I really living my commitment? So I love that you put on here lead gen, lead follow-up, go on appointments, and negotiate contracts, because that's the job description. So do you guys have all 4 of those scheduled in your calendar? So I'm going to give you guys something I put in yesterday that I have in my coaching world, as well as in our world with Dawn and I, and a lot of things that we've trained, including Gateway to Mastery. Every day you should have at least 2 blocks of time, 2, 2.5, or 3 hours long, that are labeled LA, BA, FU, LG. LA, BA, FU, LG. Here's what that stands for. Listing appointment, buyer's appointment, follow-up, lead gen. In essence, that's the order you're going to check down. So now when someone calls and says, hey, let's have a listing appointment, you can say, I've got next Thursday I have Thursday at 2 or Friday at 11. Any other professional, you call your doctor. Oh my God, yes. When can you come in? Is never the answer you get. You call your accountant. Oh my gosh, yes, I can't wait to talk to you. When can you come in? Is never the answer. Same with your attorney, same with any professional. Yet real estate agents, because of the drop in professionalism, have always been responsive rather than proactive. By building these blocks, you now have proactive times to set appointments. Now, if you don't have a listing appointment and you don't have a buyer's appointment, what should you be doing during that 2.5 hour or 3 hour block of time?
Making phone calls.
Which is either follow-up or
Follow-up and lead gen.
Okay. That's why it's written that way. So with that being said, I want you guys today, in the later part of today, coming in and putting into practice building this calendar. That 2 o'clock time is implementation today. You guys can help each other sit there for that 30 minutes and build tomorrow. And make it, by the way, in my world, I make each day a silo. So I built Thursday and I made everything repeat Thursday. So every Thursday, that was my plan. The reason I do it one day at a time is because things are going to change. You guys have seen in my calendar that Friday afternoons now are blocked for family, for my wife. If I had made something repeat every day, Monday through Friday from 2 to 5, I'd now have to unwind all that and rebuild it. So each day gets built as a silo. I want to see you guys build your Thursday today and maybe get to building your Friday today and your Saturday and your Sunday. Know that this is a living, breathing, always changing document. So nothing is set in stone. The only thing I want to see is at least 2 of those big blocks. I want to see at least 2 what I call flex time. Those are 30-minute windows that you can pick up all the little stuff that happens so you don't have to do it right in the moment. I want to see you also putting stuff on for yourself. Your morning ritual, your workout time, your date night every week with your spouse, your family week, your family night every week with the whole family. start building your perfect life. What else are you guys taking either out of the content about what we're talking here?
Well, I saw you reflected, talking about 17 impact areas and 17 meetings. I was like, well, that's how he does it. Love it. So you inspired me. Thank you.
Well, and know that you're bringing that down. You may have that initially. And as the author wrote on page 7, the very beginning of this, I later learned no one should have more than 6 direct reports. So as you build and scale, my vision for you guys is to have big operations that give you pure freedom. So as you go, you may get a direct report of a virtual assistant early on who's handling admin. As you grow, you might get an ISA who's a direct report for now, right, Ryan? Yet the goal is for them to be the lead over an ISA department, for your admin to be the lead over an admin department. And you're not going to have control over all these people. You've got to control that through leaders. That's what we're doing in this room every day and in everything we're doing. We're leaders building leaders. So make sure you start seeing yourself in that lens. What else you guys getting?
Affirmation. I text in the chat to share the affirmation. I think it's not just lead generation. You have to really feel that and have the energy. So I text a bunch of idea. People don't have to use that, but it just enhance your purpose and goal, which is financial freedom and time freedom, so we can do a meaningful legacy in our life to serve other people in need and desperate needs help.
And I love, Elizabeth, that you are at a next level of thinking, and that's where we're taking everybody. Yet right now, I want to stay in on the simple, small chunks.
Okay.
We got to master lead gen and lead follow-up prior to moving on to some more marketing. We got to get our financial house in order with lead gen and lead follow-up to where we're meeting our magic pending number before we get sidetracked on other stuff to bring inbound.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we're getting the financial house in order. So Thursdays, we have financial freedom. Make sure you're plugging into that. What else you guys have?
I do. I'm going to ask this for the group because I know that this is something that comes across a lot. Is should there be gaps in that schedule, or should you have no gaps in your schedule? Because in those gaps, do they cause complacency? Do they cause other things to come up that now you have to change your schedule? Just being more responsible and responsive for your schedule. If you could go ahead and answer that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And the answer is yes. So initially, I want you to have ultimately no gaps. Your day should be planned. If I hired you as an employee of mine to do the job of real estate, would I expect you to be doing it for 8 hours a day? Or would I expect you to have gaps? So I want those days fully planned, including, like I said, my flex time, my lunch break. Those things are in there. As you get in the system and you start building, now you're going to have to start making gaps like I do for others in my world, like all of you, to be able to schedule into my life through the tools that I use. So for you to be able to go online and schedule into my calendar, there's got to be a gap. That's the only reason. So as you grow and build, and now you've got an automation tool like a Calendly or a Go High Level tool that provides scheduling, now you have to leave gaps. Until that time, the answer is no. Make sense, Ryan?
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I know that others are in this group who will benefit from that answer. Thank you.
You got it. Awesome. What else you guys picking up, or what other questions do you have?
There was something, I don't have a real good connection, so no picture. There was something that they said that if you allow yourself to be distracted, you get a text and you respond, and you get an email and you respond, that you're operating on the level of having had only 4 hours of sleep. And so you're less productive. So not only are you less directed, less specific, I'm going to work on responding to my emails now and get complete with that or whatever. By distracting yourself, not only do you have to restart, but it's just a confused, sleepy reaction.
Yeah, it comes down to another concept we've discussed before. So since we have new faces that haven't been in here previously, how many of you are really good multitaskers? Raise your hands. And there's no such thing. It's a lie. The research shows that all multitasking is a greater opportunity to screw up more stuff because of what's called a switch cost. It's another version of switch cost. When you make the switch from what you're focused on to the siren song of the cell phone, there's a time to take to get engaged with the phone. What am I doing? Okay, this is what I'm doing, and processing that information. And then there's another break to go back and where was I? Oh yeah, this is where I was, and getting back into that. So it creates massive delays. So this thing should be off and away. One of my favorite, Gene Arant, love the guy, dear friend. We were in Austin together. When he showed up in the morning to do his lead gen, he handed his cell phone to his assistant and went into his office where there was paper and a desk phone. And he was locked in there for 2 hours. If anybody called a cell phone, the assistant answered. And what did she tell people?
He's in a meeting.
Yeah, he's in a meeting. He's busy doing something else.
Call
If
back
someone
later.
a neighbor called and said, I'm trying to get hold of Gene, his house is on fire, would she have told him?
Call the police.
Call the police, call the fire department. When Gene's done with his work, we'll let him know and we'll deal with it there. By the way, she was compensated. She got a bonus on everything that he lead gen and closed. So was she all in to be a great gatekeeper?
Mhm.
And by the way, in northern Austin, in that entire area, who was the number one agent in that market when I was there?
Him.
It was Gene. He just did the work every day. By the way, Ryan, for you, just to get this, his disc profile is a CS. So he is way out of his comfort zone doing this stuff. And yet he knew time on task over time, worked magic, and that's what he did by building the calendar like we're doing and then following it. No more distractions. Love that, Tom. Thanks for bringing that in. What else?
So I was
So how do I raise my hand in here, by the way?
Okay, I see you, Chad. I'm going to go and then Chad. Got you both.
okay. So I was just going to comment on the staff member, right? Having that person who's capable of being accountable. It changes who you're looking at when you're looking at making hires, because you want the person who's accountable, yes, capable, yes, but you also are looking at somebody who is capable of at least managing a small team. And if not, then all you're going to set yourself back, right? You don't necessarily want to go for the star player who can manage a team of 20, because that's 20 steps ahead in your growth. But a good player who can manage a team of 3 is at least keeping you in forward motion until you get that other person who can manage 2 or 3 teams.
Yeah, what I'm always looking for is what I call emerging talent. You can see in them that they've got the desire and they've got the talent, the raw. They just don't have the training and the skills yet. And you can have them grow with you into those leadership roles. Great aha. And Chad, what do you got, brother?
Well, kind of 2 parts here. One is the 2 chapters I read in this book spawned something for me that I've researched in the past, which is
hold tight, because we want to paste this in. Is it the introduction in chapter 1? Is that where the material's out
It's hard for me to say because I've now grouped it into one thing for my brain. So I apologize if I don't know that. I'll just pause then.
Time management is chapter 1.
It is time management. What it did for me is it went into something that I've researched pretty in depth for myself and I put into practice, which is removing things from your schedule too, because you think you want to do all these things. If you do it for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and you pretty much realize like, this is absolute mayhem. This goes back into what Ryan said, that hustle culture, the busyness, quit being busy. Well, you got to tell yourself to quit being busy too, so that you can actually accomplish things. And the second part of this is there's a neurological part of your brain. It's called survival mode. And if you're making decisions in survival mode, you actually can't plan for the future. You're not humanly capable of doing it. And this happens to a lot of us in the 9-to-5 too, but as entrepreneurs, we can also get stuck in this trap. And so that's the two parts that came to me, and it really just pulled from some historic data that I've researched in the past. So this book is like, tapping into something that's, it's a core element in all success. And it's talking about the real things, the fundamentals of like how your brain works, but also you can't balance, when you blow up balloons without helium. And if you took like 6 of them, we talked about this before, Russ, in another meeting, and you threw them up in the air, you can't catch all of them. One of them is going to end up hitting the ground. So you've got to find your perfect amount of this scheduling you're talking about in your calendar is your perfect amount of balloons that you can balance in the air or juggle. We could call it juggling. Okay. And so you're on a mission to find that balance for you.
I think that's like perfect. I love that because sometimes you may get caught up with probably what you see others are doing, or maybe somebody else is creating a list for you, but then you feel so obligated to stick to that list that they create, or they're saying, oh, you should do this, but it doesn't fit for you, right? When you're trying to juggle it all, now instead of catching all 3 balls, you have caught none because it's too many for you. So maybe you start with the 2 balls only. So I think that's a really great tip. And then he did mention something about, like you said earlier, the psychological, it's like that high that you get, or that sense of accomplishment when you can see, oh, I checked this one thing off the list, and actually rewarding yourself with that. I did this successfully, and that's one less thing I have to roll into that running list. But 2 things that I wanted to mention that stood out to me was touch it once. That was like, I was like, oh, right, I need to definitely get more discipline with that. But one of the things he highlighted was even setting a tone for people. Well, he kind of said that a few times, right? We set the tone for others to know how to interact with us, to know how to show up for us. Like whether it was the got a minute stuff that he said, hold up, you guys can't come every minute and with the got a minute stuff, but it's the same thing too. It's like, he also mentioned making sure the email subjects are specific to the content, and as it changes, to make sure you update that. That was like 2 things I was like, wow, so huge, because I have definitely experienced you looking for that email, it's somewhere, but because you didn't change the subject line, now you're going through all these different emails just to find that one thing that could have took you 10 seconds because you updated that thing. So touch it once, and definitely make sure your email subject lines are accurate to whatever information is in the email.
Awesome. And there was 2 things I wanted to pick up just from what you said and elaborate slightly on. 1, lists. Again, the step of priority is key, because you'll get I defrosted the freezer today. It needed to be done and I got it done. And yet it actually has no value to your life. And the other one you said that I want to make sure we get this in for the mindset piece, because you mentioned talking about, well, I'm getting the stuff done that other people are, measuring to other people. Do not compare your insides to other people's outsides. What you see other people presenting is not reality. Okay. What you see on social media is not reality. And so we're going to, yeah, and just lean in. So Caesar, I saw you come on. What do you got, brother? You're having mic problems and you're doing sign language That is one I haven't perfected yet. So who else? Who else has something while Caesar's sorting it out? Kelly?
There was at the end of it, he was talking about that ask yourself if you really need it, because I've got emails that, chains, and I try at the end of every transaction to go through and search emails for that property and make sure I just do what I need to with them and get them out of the way. But do you really need it? Do you really need to print it? Do you really have to have it? And do you really need it, period? Like you said, most things you can go back and find or contact. You can call title and get something. You can call, you can call people and get most of what we need. So, and I really loved the touch it once, because man, in my previous world, it was like, it's not done until it's done, but stay focused. And that focus thing and what Grandpa Chad was talking about, wow, that was huge for me as well.
So let's quickly touch on emails, guys, because I'd love to give you a nugget to help on this. At the beginning of every transaction, when you set an offer or set a listing, set a subcategory of transactions with a second subcategory of address. The moment you set up a file, set that up in your email. Now, when you touch it once, you can put it into that file, and you'll know everything for that address is in that file from this date going forward. Because you absolutely need to save all your communications. That is a key component just for liability protection.